Hi, Aishe. How are you?
I'm doing well. Grand Rising.
Great rising to you. This
Yeah.
has been an interesting journey. You've learned a few things. I've learned a few things, and we've shared a lot. And hopefully, we both grew in the process. I know we have. So, um, just some simple things. What was what motivated you to join or become a breath master in the first place?
Because what motivated me was that the breath work that I started with pranayam has always been healing and therapeutic to me. I have found like such amazing time where I can be present and just heal through my breath. And the idea that we have what we need to heal was just like whoosh, fascinating to me. That like
Hmm.
I don't need to go and grab this or that. That I just have to breathe and I can heal whatever is going on with me. That to me is just like that is the ultimate power. Um, and I wanted to harness that and be able to have that in my life and also teach others. So that's kind of my motivation.
That's an interesting comment from the standpoint that that's so simple that it's literally unbelievable. Because everybody's breathing and everybody's stressing and everything is coming at them and what have you. And then to say that, you know, as you internalize the breath, which everybody's breathing, so they internalize, but they're not intentional, they're not fully aware, and so therefore it's not being activated. And so it's like that activating
Right.
the power of the breath is what's healing. And that escapes so many people because when you talk about power, folks think of the powers that be and the powers that be outside of me, rather than,
Mm-hmm.
the power that they may have within themselves and what have you. So
Right.
I mentioned simplicity now and power. And what was the thing that struck you probably I would say in the beginning when you started on this particular journey of becoming a breath master? What was the most dynamic and simplistic thing that hit you?
The most dynamic was absolutely the breath master technique. That is the most dynamic breath that just you can be in any situation. Just from my practice, you can be in any situation. And like throughout my life and throughout this training, I was in already in so many situations and I used the breath master technique and I was able to just completely calm down, ground myself, and get a different perspective on the situation. So to me, that's the most, and it's simple. You can do it anywhere. You know, it's not this hard, difficult breath. You just have to be mindful of the breath and you can transform in that moment. So it's simple and it's so dynamic. And I'm really grateful and thankful that I know that technique. I use it all the time now.
Yeah, I tell people that, this is one of the most phenomenal power tools that you ever have in your toolbox. And, I also mentioned that it is literally just a snowflake on the tip of the iceberg. And what I mean by that is the technique itself, but then the use of it and the use of the other techniques and practices that you learn in the process. Because this has been the journey for me has been one of creation and the creation process has been really and truly about observation, seeing and feeling what happens to me as I go through the process. And then, being able to share my experience, because ultimately that's all we're doing here, sharing our experiences and advancing the experience of others. Um, so, as a breath master, I mean, during the process, I always, even if you're not becoming a level two instructor, at the beginning, I tell folks, your job is to share this with the world. So, with that, what has your experience been like sharing at least one simple technique, breath master, breath of fire, or whatever? Because quite often when we're doing these things, we're sharing with others, we witness people's epiphanies and transformations and what have you. So, just give us one of those instances if you can recall one off the top of your head.
Yeah, there's been many, but I'll just give the most recent one. is with my little baby. She's 14 months. And sometimes, there's this agitation. She doesn't want to change her diaper. There's so many agitations that can happen. And when I practice with her the breath master technique, especially right before she goes to bed, because she's someone that's like, she's like, I want to fight my sleep. So when I practice the breath master technique and I really have that sound, like I really make sure it's nice and strong, I instantly see her calm down. Like it's instant. It automatically just starts to rest. She stops crying and she just listens. So it's something I implement every single night with her. And every single time I notice that she's getting a little pent up, and it's been working.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Now, that as a parent, that's one of the things that is the most, can't this baby go to sleep? I need some rest myself.
Right? So
That's
bad,
one of the,
so
oh
much
man,
every
so
night.
being able to help the baby go to sleep and so that you can get your rest, or do whatever you need to do after the baby goes to sleep so you can then get your rest, is phenomenal. So that's a great tip for parents and what have you, to be able to calm the child and allow the child to go to sleep. Now, one thing that I teach in this process is, and one people, and you hear this in the yogic practices and what have you, and other walks of life, that the first two things that you hear, and I'm going to add feel, while you're in the womb, is the sound of your mother's heartbeat and the sound of your mother's breath. So since she's only 14 months, i.e. a recent graduate of the birth canal and the womb space, where she got to hear that for the entire time once she developed, um, this reminds her of that divine space. The breath master technique, the sound of the breath literally takes you back to the womb space. Um, and I like to call it the pre-trauma phase of life. And so with that, people are allowed to move past trauma, move beyond trauma, because they go straight to pre-trauma, and where they hadn't experienced trauma. So as a therapeutic tool, from my perspective, it definitely works because it helps people with that. Now, you talked about being an asthmatic. And, from my experience, asthma is basically the fear of immediate, not imminent, but immediate death, because you're not going to breathe. You can't get no air in your lungs. So
Yep,
from that
that's it.
perspective, can you share a little bit of how the breath is life?
That what you just said was key, that fear word, because I know in the past when I've gotten asthma attacks, automatically the fear, you're triggered in fear. So you even start holding more because you're just like, I can't breathe. I'm having trouble with my lungs. You're even holding your breath. So it's a lot of a fear response. So being able to know that you have the control over your breath, practicing this breath master technique is going to be key in for people who are asthmatic as I am, because I remember that it's such a trauma response, it's such a fear response that I can tell myself and allow my breath to calm me down, then I can have a different perspective on what needs to happen, what medicines do I need to go to in order to heal myself, or what even breaths do I need to do in order to bring some more, open up the airways.
Now, a lot of folks wind up in highly stressful spaces in their lifetime, and they wind up going to the hospital thinking they're having a heart attack, and they find that it's a panic attack. Now,
Right.
from my awareness, and I'm going to get this from you, a panic attack is pretty much the same as an asthma attack in its actual physiological response.
It's
Does
true.
that sound about right to you? Yeah,
It
yeah.
sounds
So all you folks
100%.
who having a
You really
panic
do have a
attack,
panic attack.
y'all, let's say that again.
Oh,
Say
I
that
just said
again.
it's really like having a panic attack.
Yeah. So all you folks with your panic attacks, know that it is pretty much the same. Like I said, an asthma attack is the fear of immediate death because I can't breathe. So you having your panic attack, you think you're having a heart attack, you think you're going to die. It's the same thing. And when you get to the emergency room and you sit there, after a while, they can't see you. You got to sit there and you got to wait, and you gradually calm down. But, and I've had people to do this. I even had a guy, and you see this on another one of my YouTube videos, who was shot lying on the side of the street, and he calmed himself with the breath to the point where when help arrived, he was calmly telling them what happened, and they were about to have a panic attack themselves, and he had to calm them down. He's laying there bleeding and shot, and he calmed the police officer who was like, "Oh my God, you've been shot! What are you? How can you be so calm?" It's like, you know, he had that tool in his power tool in his toolbox, and he utilized it. And he was like, I was sitting there, I was like, "Oh my God, what are we doing?" And something clicked in his head, breathe. And he remembered the technique that I shared with him one afternoon. One simple encounter made that much of a difference in this man's life. And that is the same scenario every time you're going through a panic attack. Even if you haven't been shot, thank goodness, the fact that you're fearing for your life and you need to breathe. So all you breath masters, again, share this with everyone. Anybody with any type of breathing impairment, you got to share this. That's your primary job. Even if you don't become an instructor, you definitely have to do that. Anything that comes to mind that you want to share? Because I don't want to stretch this out too long. I think we've gotten a good amount of information. And let me say also, there's an open invitation to anybody watching this to become a breath master, because this is one of our charges. Once you learn something that is so powerful, it is your job to share it with the world. So you can sign up for the breath master certification online, and it's a 3-month process. Excuse me, a 30-day process. But we go pretty much according to your schedule. So it's a self-paced scenario because life happens. But definitely, once you start, you want to finish, because it's so rich. When you start, you're going to realize that with that one simple technique, this is so powerful. But again, that's just the beginning. There's so much more, because the breath master process is about learning how to move with the breath throughout the day, instead of just having to go to a yoga class or do Tai Chi and Qigong in order to get the fullness of the breath. You can experience the fullness of the breath throughout the day and never really have to have any type of panic attacks. So, Aishe, is there anything else that you think the people might need to know, or we will want them to know?
Well, I would just say like what you just said is like being aware of your breath throughout the day, and how that was essential to our training. And that is just life changing to me, because so often, especially right now where we have a lot of anxiety, there's a lot going on. We're always thinking about what we're going to do next. How's the future going to be? How is it going to be next year with COVID? We're always thinking about that stuff. So the breath and is going to keep you present. It keeps you aware and it keeps you present. And especially if you're practicing it throughout your day and your movements and what you're doing, you're constantly in that present state. So I just think it's just so healing, specifically right now. I mean, always, but right now it's essential.
Now, you mentioned movement. So that brought to mind, because we got people who are pretty well fit, don't have, any type of breathing impairment and what have you, pretty active and what have you. And then you have folks who don't really utilize their breath and they don't really move that much. Tell me, or tell the audience, what does the breath do when you're engaged in movement? When you do those slow, gentle movements that activate all of those large and small muscle groups in dynamic ways, using basic movements like, for instance, the get-ups. Like if you're sitting down and you get up and you use the breath, how do you feel that affects your musculature and your joints and what have you?
hmm I think that affects the joints and the muscular because it's giving oxygen to the cells, and it's also allowing that lubrication in the joints to happen. You're just using that breath to lubricate the joints so that you can be more fluid in your movements. And what you mentioned to me that's been stuck in my head is that it's also with that you're massaging the organs. So you're also allowing your system to kind of stay in that regular routine of just like, okay, we're moving throughout the day and everything's moving and everything's able to transform, and then you're at a place of rest at night. So it's just that movement with the breath, those small movements, is just keeping your body in that regular cycle that it should be in and keeping you lubricated.
Hmm. And also, this as you're doing the slow movement, it allows the muscles to really activate, and several different spaces. I would say when you exhale fully and you hold, and you actually get to feel the abdominal muscles and what have you, and that activation not only strengthens and tones. So for all my athletes, you know, um, even if you are doing the active rest scenario, or if you've been injured and you can't really get up and do your normal routine, if you're doing the active rest using the breath and tensing the muscles, you can do strengthening and toning, so that you aid your recovery and actually expedite your recovery, and also accelerate your ability to heal, your ability to overcome, and your ability to be your best. That's what I like, because like I'm about to be 64, and I'm relatively athletic, slightly. Don't do much, but I like yard work and all of this kind of stuff, and I move with the breath. And I found that it keeps my body youthful, more supple, and what have you, because I don't move like a lot of people my age. I mean, I'm not saying that there aren't people who are, really have an easy flow with their body at my age, and for the most part. But we live in a society of sedentary lifestyle, and a lot of people are, as they're sitting still, they're becoming stiffer and what have you. I don't really have to deal with that, and largely because I move with the breath throughout the day. So with that, I want to say thank you, Aishe, and I appreciate you. Excuse me, let me change that. Breath Master Aishe. Because you've gone through this process, recent graduate, and your certification's in the mail. It's in the mail. And well, actually, it's about to be in the mail. Let me not lie. It's about to be in the mail. And I appreciate you in this process. With each of my students, I get a different take on life, because I'm approaching it from I'm approaching you, and you're coming with your perspective and your life experience, and uh, the teaching is guided by you. That's another thing I want to tell anybody who's a prospective student. It's the teaching is guided by you, because I'm not going to fill you up with anything more than you can handle, and I meet you where you are. So whatever you say to me is going to evoke from me something that is for you specifically. For instance, Aisha told me that she was asthmatic and a number of things, and I got to share with her, and this happens quite often, things that I hadn't shared before, or in a way that I hadn't shared it before, statements and different little nuanced aspects of the practices that are basically in the moment tailored for the individual. And whether it's a group setting, each individual gets to express, what they're coming with, and I get to share specifically with them. And if it's a group setting, again, everybody in the space gets to witness that. And the other thing, this is a major, major, major piece. When you go through this training, all of the material, all of the videos you get for life, because it's uploaded on YouTube. You have a YouTube link, so you can access it from anywhere. You don't have to. I mean, any device that you can access YouTube, you can access your training. So it's something that you can review at any point in time. So for those who complete the training and don't necessarily activate it or use it actively, they can come back 6 months, 6 years, 60 years and review their training and don't have to pay another dime. How many classes can you say that? How many college classes have you gone to? And once you walk out the door, that's it. You can't review that thing, you know. So this is an opportunity that gives you perpetual active engagement if you so choose. So let me stop talking because I can be long-winded. That's the thing of the breath. You got a lot of oxygen. You can exhale and expand and express as much as you want. So with that, let's do the breath master technique as we go out. Place the tip of the tongue to the roof of the mouth, curl it back and inhale. Lungs full, release the tongue, drop the jaw, and exhale with a. Some say namaste.
Peace and blessings.
I'm from the country. I'm going to say, now I'm going to go. Peace out. Love y'all. Thank you
Peace.
so much. Peace.